Right, greetings, guys. We are talking about the topic arithmetic patterns. Now, because you have done this topic in grade 10 and you revised it in grade 11, we are really not going to dwell much into it and explaining it detail by detail. We are just going to give you an overview to help you revise what you have already learned. Well, you remember that the general formula is given by the following: Tn equals to An. Well, let me start with this one. Tn equals to A plus N minus 1D. That's the first formula that some of you were exposed to. Some of you were exposed to this formula. Tn equals to, and I prefer writing it this way. I know most of you know it as Bn plus C, but I prefer writing it as Dn plus C, and you will see why. Okay, and when you label these things, you know that A is your first term. You know that N is the number of terms in a particular sequence. And of course, you know that Tn is your term in that sequence. And you know that D is your common difference. Okay, that's the things that you learned, and we are going to take a simple example to help us revise this, and we're going to use two methods to solve this. Okay, again, here we know that Tn is our term. We know that D is our common difference. That's why I prefer writing it this way, so that you remember that D is your common difference. Okay, and then N, of course, is your number of terms in a given sequence. And of course, C here is your constant. Here you'll find out we'll use a bit of simultaneous equations. And here you'll find out that we'll use a bit of simultaneous equations, whereas here we don't need to use any simultaneous equations. Let us look at an example here. Example 1. They say to us we must consider the sequence minus 4, minus 2, and 0. Okay, so we are having the sequence minus 4, minus 2, and 0. If you look at this sequence, for us to go from here to here, you would understand that we had to add by 2. Okay, for us to go from there to there, we have to add by 2. Some of the things I have neglected mentioning in the notes, I will mention as I explain the example. So in order for us to get the next term, we had to add 2 to what? To 0, so that we get 2. And then for us to get the next term, we have to add 2 to 2, so that we get 4. For us to get the next term, we have to add 2 to 4, so that we get 6. So our next terms, guys, there are 2, 4, and 6. Very simple. Okay. Write down a mathematical formula for the nth term. So first we can use this one. Tn equals to A plus N minus 1D. That's the first one that we can use. Well, T1, our first term there is, of course, we know that it is minus 4. Okay. And then we have to find D. Remember D for an arithmetic sequence, and you must have determined that this is an arithmetic sequence. We say the next term subtracted by the previous term. Okay, so the second term here would be minus 2, and the previous term would be minus 1. That is minus 2 plus 4, which is 2. Okay, and therefore we are ready to find our general formula or our nth term. Well, our first term was minus 4. This is n minus 1, and our common difference was 2. So that is minus 4 plus 2n minus 2, so that we have 2n minus 6. Okay, that's the first way in which you can find the general term. The second way that you can find the general term is to use Tn equals to Dn plus C. Okay, the common difference, well, we have found already that the common difference is 2. Okay, so substitute that into the equation so that it is Tn equals to 2n plus C. And then we call this equation 1. Then we will substitute n equals to 1 into 1, so that we have T1 equals to 2. What is the value of n? It's 1 plus C. Well, what is our first term? Our first term is what? It's minus 4. okay, equals to 2 plus c. Take this to the, apply the additive inverse, so that you have minus 4 minus 2, which equals to c. Therefore, c equals to minus 6. Therefore, you have all your values. Tn equals to 2n minus 6. So those are, and I'm talking quickly because these are things that I assume that you have done, so we don't have to spend much time on those things. Then they say to you, hence determine the fifth term in each pattern. Simple there. Well, the fifth term, so Tn here already we know is 2n minus 6. They are telling us that the fifth term, okay, hence determine the fifth term in each pattern. The fifth term. Be careful. So the value here, very important, guys, the value of n here is what? It's 50. Don't confuse that with t. The value of n there is what? It's 50. All right. So here n is 50. So we want to know what is the fifth term. What is the value of the fifth term? So wherever we see n, we are going to put 50. Where do we see n? We see it here. So we put 50. Where do we see n? We see it here. So we put 50. All right. And therefore, this gives us 100 minus 6, which equals to 94. All right. Very quick video. Not really designed to go much into detail. The topic that I will go in deep detail with is geometric sequences. But with this one, I'm just making you remember what you have already studied.